What up, people? Crack Lemonade here, and I want to talk to you about Dragon Ball Z. Particularly Dragon Ball Z before 2003. Um, because I think there is, something that made Dragon Ball Z, um, something that is just like built into a lot of anime fans' memories, and that is like the uncovering of this show um, with a drawing style that we've never seen before. And for the longest time, before 2003, it was mostly inaccessible to us. Used to come on the WB channel, and you know the channel number would change depending on where you lived locally. That was a local TV station, and people who encounter this video might think I'm talking psychobabble, but TV used to be on a set schedule, and you couldn't access everything when you want. Sometimes it would just come on and you would just have to try to catch it. And for Dragon Ball Z, it used to come on at like 7 a.m. And then eventually it moved over to Cartoon Network. And then it was in the afternoon. So it was more accessible to people. And it got people hyped. And, it was already done in Japan. GT was already done in Japan. But we didn't know anything about that because not a lot of people had internet. So, and the internet was completely different back then too. So you would have like these very weird pages, websites that you would go to, and it would be a lot of fan information, a lot of like secondhand information, and you had to parse through what was real and what was, not real. So, and video wasn't a thing on the internet really, uh, before 2003. So, looking at clips of stuff, nah, we had images and images to go by. And what we would get would be images of Dragon Ball Z, Dragon Ball GT, and Dragon Ball AF After Future, which was like this fan-made thing that everybody thought was real, and was a season that took place after Dragon Ball GT, because we did not have access to Japanese television to let us know that we were getting fanfic with our sprinkle through of Dragon Ball Z images of the Buu saga, because that didn't come out until 2003 in the US. I believe 2003 or 2004. For the longest time, we only had up until the Cell saga. So people were just like, "Oh my God, what is going to happen?" I say all this to say that I feel like Dragon Ball Z, as this particular example, was a mainstay in the hearts of many that grew old because of how inaccessible it was, a little bit of the anticipation, and then basically the payoff of the show. The payoff of actually seeing the Buu saga, and it was really good. Well, people might have differing opinions of it, but the finished product that we got in the United States on TV was good for us and we enjoyed it. And we bought the video games and we bought the action figures. We bought the trading cards. We bought everything that we could for Dragon Ball Z at the time. And now I'm going to loop this back to Kamen Rider because I've been playing Kamen Rider Hibiki for the PS2 for the past 5 minutes and not talking about that. So, when it comes to Kamen Rider, um, it's a series I thoroughly love and enjoy, and I want other people to be able to watch it, see if they love it. You know, you don't gotta love every season, but find a season that you like because it's a show that has existed since the 70s. So there is a wide selection of not only main series but spin-off and different things, and it can open you up to the broader world of tokusatsu and other shows. You could get into Ultraman, you could get into Super Sentai, you could get into the ever elusive Garo. But the thing about it is that you first gotta get into Kamen Rider. So ultimately, I still am very pessimistic about the current localization efforts regarding Kamen Rider being released on Blu-ray and the figures coming out. These are nice things, but I also don't feel like these are sustainable practices, especially for something that isn't accessible, like that isn't accessible to watch for free, to convince people to actually buy the DVD set. So it's kind of like, the people who are already fans of the franchise are gonna seek out the Blu-rays so that they can own it and watch it whenever they want. They're going to spend the money on the premium SH Figure Arts figures and, whatever becomes available. But I also think that with the efforts, there aren't really a lot of things that are set at a lower price point, or even wearable things. I haven't seen Kamen Rider clothing officially come out, or something that could potentially increase brand awareness come out through any of the official channels. And I could be completely wrong, and I could be missing out on something. It could be because I am hyper focused on the show, and I do see some of the figure stuff pop up on my social media. I could be missing a completely different avenue of Kamen Rider, but you know it is available on Tubi for free, and I have said previously in a rant that um Tubi's cool, but it's not the go-to streaming app or something that I guess comes up in everyday conversation. Either you use Tubi or you don't. But I definitely think that the paid streaming platforms such as Netflix, Amazon Prime, and Hulu and Disney Plus, those are the ones that people tend to talk about, and it also tends to get broader fanfare. But on top of that, um, what needs to be done is really good marketing, because again, um, if you have something to sell, if people don't know that it's for sale, then a lot of people won't buy it. And that ties into how I think Kamen Rider comes across in social media. It it appeals to people who are already fans of Kamen Rider, but there really isn't an appeal for someone who necessarily isn't a fan and wants to start out. Um, and you know, I think a lot of Kamen Rider fans these days come from friends who convert people to Kamen Rider. So you already know somebody who is familiar with Kamen Rider, and they introduce you to Kamen Rider, and that begins your own exploration. I could be wrong, but I do think that is a little bit a majority of like the American fandom, and I could be over generalizing. And anybody who comes across this and is a Kamen Rider fan and it doesn't fall within that group, you're definitely welcome to give me how you were introduced to the show. And so it does become like this very niche thing. It has a small fandom, but a loyal fandom that that wants it to come over, that wants it to be available, that wants it to be on like American streaming platforms without the use of a VPN or anything like that. Um, or I could be putting wishes in people's minds, but I I want that basically. I'm gonna say that I want that. I want it to be like something that somebody just I casually hear somebody talking about, and I can join in on that conversation, or I can start a conversation with somebody, and just have it be something that more people watch on a broader scale. Um, I and honestly, I think from like a business perspective, if the DVD was like selling great and um there were more people just honestly aware of it, I think maybe the rate of translation and localization would probably go up. But maybe I'm being over negative, but it just seems like since Kamen Rider Kuga and Kamen Rider Zero One came out on Blu-ray, it's been a very slow drip of Kamen Rider material. Like we just got Kamen Rider Geats on Blu-ray, and I believe it's like 60 now. But it was like I think it came out and it was like 70 to the Blu-ray set, where I think the previous sets were about 50. Um, I could I could be off about those prices. And it just seems like, we got one thing for more money, whereas previously, um, we got multiple things. And maybe they weren't super cheap, but they weren't significantly higher like this current set. And I also understand the argument that Kamen Rider Geats was the most recent season, and my counter to that is they could have got another season, to be perfectly honest. Um, because it doesn't seem like it doesn't seem like Shout Factory or any of those places are promoting it that much. And, I think, you know, you kind of gotta flood it because it is a relatively unknown thing, and you gotta make people want to spend that money on this item. And especially I think it would be to like Shout Factory and Tokushoutsu's benefit to let people know that you can watch these seasons on Tubi before you think about buying the Blu-ray, you know? But at the end of the day, I think what sells a Blu-ray or what sells figures is like being familiar with the franchise. And if you're selling something that people are unfamiliar with, they're just gonna look at it and be like, okay, why should I buy this? And if your pitch isn't good, it's just posting, hey, we got a new figure. Hey, we just released some new episodes. Like, if it's not convincing and you're not using like exciting scenes that would draw people in. I'm not saying, show a rider kick every time, but like there's probably some good captivating scenes if you scrub through the show that you could do for like a social media post that would be like, "Oh, snap. I want to go watch that." Like I want, give people that desire because at the end of the day, what very much can happen is um Toei gives up on the localization of Kamen Rider, and they're like, it's not profitable. Anyways, that's just my thoughts. I've been Crack Lemonade. I'll see you guys later.